Syracuse with a huge overtime victory down in the Barclays Center against Richmond. We've got the highs, we've got the lows, we've got your Twitter reactions. It's Locked On Syracuse. It starts right now.
Are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? How's it going? Happy Tuesday morning, Syracuse fans. It was a big win last night. Overtime game for Syracuse. They topped the Richmond Spiders 74-71. A lot of good stuff to talk about. Girard with 31. Judah showed out again. Chris Bell with a big performance. And we will get to all of that. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by Upside. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Owen Valentine here today. No Matthew Bonaparte. He was actually at the game last night, but could not get onto our call this afternoon or this evening to get out for today's episode when the time this comes out. So we were lucky to get his thoughts, but still looking to get him back home. I believe he's on a train right now and unable to record for a little bit longer. So solo show today, but still a lot to talk about. And I'm going to lead with Joe Girard today. Scores 21 in the first half, 31, a new career high for him on the afternoon. A really good performance from him, especially in the first half. And I think I looked at the 21 points that he scored, and it was 3 threes. So there's 9 points right there. But the other 12 points weren't him getting fouled, and they were him, I think, playing his best offensive game, which was not forcing things necessarily, taking what was there. And oftentimes in that first half, it was an open two or a mid-range jumper. Got to the basket a couple times, a really pretty backdoor cut down the stretch there in the first half. He was doing a lot of things that I think you, as a Syracuse fan, are really excited to see in that first half, and doing what he needs to do without having to force it. You know he's the scorer. You know that this is a guy that is going to put shots up. And I think in the first half, he did exactly what you want him to do and exactly what you were so excited to see if you were a Joe Girard fan. And even if you are, one of the anti-Girard guys, I think in that first half, he showed what you want. The second half, a little bit different, scores 9 second half points, started 0 for 2 from 3 in the second half. It was a little bit different. And the thing that I'm going to question with Girard was more on the defensive end, and something that I watched him struggle with a good amount. I needed to see a little more from him on the defense and at the top of the 2-3. And I think that was one of Syracuse's struggles in this game in terms of being able to get going in the second half was the top of the zone. This was a game where Richmond, just like we have seen in games past, where you look back on the schedule and you see the 19 threes that Colgate put up, or when you are playing Northeastern, they were still able, especially in that first half, to shoot pretty well from 3, if I remember correctly, 7 of 19. So I guess that's only 37%, but I think they still got a lot of open looks, and that was the same case tonight. It was open look after open look in this game for Richmond, and a lot of it had to do with the top of the 2-3. I needed to see a little bit more aggression out of Girard, I think. I look and I see how this team rotated, and that was something of concern and something that I needed to see improved. I keep watching, and Richmond kept hitting wide open threes. And this is not a Richmond team that is known for being an explosive offensive three-point shooting team. It was simply that was how good of the looks that they were getting a lot of the time. I will say I thought Syracuse played well internally on defense for a lot of this game. There were definitely some defensive strides that were made in this basketball game, and something that I think you can definitely build upon. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they build upon it, because the defense, for the most part, looked better. There were just glimpses of, oh no. And another thing, I mean, we're going to go all over the place today. I guess we'll call this the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'll just sort of ramble. What was good, what was bad, what was really ugly. If I'm going to throw out the ugly, it was Syracuse's rebounding today, especially on the defensive side. Syracuse out-rebounded in this game 44-27, which included 19 offensive rebounds 20 offensive rebounds, for Richmond. 20 offensive rebounds. That is unacceptable. That is one of the key reasons that Richmond was in this game and able to stay in this game. Their second chance points are 9. There were a lot of second chance opportunities for Richmond. I think back to in the first half, you have an unbelievable sequence where Judah Mintz comes and gets a huge block in transition, and then Richmond gets the rebound and puts it back up, and Monir Hima comes in, gets a huge block, and they get the rebound again, dish it out, and end up hitting a three. So it was that kind of ordeal where you weren't limiting Richmond's chances. You were playing solid defense, but then giving them another opportunity to come in and make some plays and score some points when all was said and done. I thought that was pretty ugly today in terms of their ability to crash the boards on the defensive side of the ball. And I think a lot of that goes to the wings and the forwards, and you need to see something more out of them in terms of rebounding. That's going to involve Benny Williams, who finished the day with 3 rebounds. That's going to involve Chris Bell, who finished the day with 1 rebound. That's going to involve Justin Taylor, who off the bench is going to be on the wings as well. He had 1 rebound on the day. You really need to see them improve in terms of the rebounding from the wings, because that was one of the key issues for Syracuse in this game. Malik Brown, another one that you could throw in there off the bench. He had 2 today in limited runs, so I'm not going to really throw him in that grouping. But you're going to need to see the wings contribute a lot more in terms of the rebounding and crashing the boards and limiting second chance opportunities for oppositions if Syracuse is going to succeed defensively. They played the zone, I believe, the entire time today, unless I missed something. It was a zone day, and the zone seemed to work a lot in terms of the interior defense, but the wings needed to step things up. I felt like the guards were a little bit too deep a lot of the time, and that was one of the things that I noticed with Joe. I will also say this: Symir is 100% a difference maker at the top of the zone, especially when replacing Joe. That length is important. Judah was outstanding in terms of his length tonight. 3 steals, got out in transition. A big part of Syracuse getting, I think it was 13 fast break points today. Big deal. And he had a really fun dunk throwing it down off his own steal in that second half as well. Let's talk Judah. I think he was definitely a good in this game. 16 points, right around what he's been averaging at this point. I thought he looked really solid, 7 of 16 from the floor. There's a couple of moments where I do think he sort of gets predetermined in his head that he's going to shoot on this possession, and that's something that he'll need to get away from. But I do like the mentality that he knows that he can get to the rim, and I think that helps him more than it hurts him at this point, even though maybe it's predetermined that he's going to shoot or he's going to drive here. I think his ability to finish at the rim makes up for maybe the fact that it's not necessarily what you want mentally out of your point guard. And I think as he continues to progress and continues to get a little bit better, you're going to see him be able to dish off of that drive a hell of a lot better and really, really effectively because of the attention he's going to draw in his ability to finish at the rim. I think he's going to have defenses collapse on him, and the more he establishes himself as a scorer at the rim, being able to get up, being able to finish in traffic, being able to create for himself, he is going to be able to create for others so much better and so much more beneficially for this offense as a whole. There was a player in this game that I think a lot of the Orange faithful were surprised or questioning Jim Boeheim that he started this basketball game tonight. We will get to him after a quick message from Upside. It has been a little bit difficult lately. Inflation has us all thinking about different ways to cut back. I know I'm trying to limit my spending at restaurants, things like that, whether it's driving less, dining out less, buying less from the grocery store, whatever that might be. We can all agree that there is nothing fun about less. And that's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With Upside, I don't have to cut back because I get cash back on every purchase. To get started, download the free Upside app, use my promo code LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8 star rating in the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. Owen Valentine here. No Matthew Bonaparte this afternoon. He was at the game, or this evening, I should say. He was at the game last night and is unable to hop on today. So it's just me breaking this down. And once again, thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. I teased it before we turned from Upside there, but there is one player today that I think a lot of Syracuse fans were questioning why he's still in the lineup. And, you see a guy like Justin Taylor, who in theory was sick last game and is now healthy at that same position. You see a guy like Kadir Copeland, who played the three a lot and could have contributed in this game at that spot. But no, Chris Bell keeps the starting spot, and boy, did he deliver today. You finally saw what Boeheim had been talking about in terms of the shooting ability. He started out, I believe, 3 for 3 from three, gets 9 huge points for Syracuse, wasn't doing anything crazy, was doing what you sort of need him to do as the non-primary scorer. You need him to get his fill when he gets open and has a shot, and that is what I believe he did in this game. Finished with 11 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, a turnover. I thought he did what he needed to do, and he ended up playing 34 minutes in this game when a lot of people, myself included, weren't sure, what he could do after what you had seen through the first 3 games. And this is a really cool thing to see Chris Bell sort of battle through this because, as a freshman, we've seen it in the past. We've seen freshmen come out cold and not quite be able to build enough steam or reinflate and get to the level you want. You sort of saw that a little bit last year with Benny Williams. He didn't start outstanding, and he was never quite able to get back to that same level. It's something that you've seen in the past with other freshmen. Maybe I don't want to say Kadari Richmond because I feel like we're going to get the conversation of, well, they didn't play him enough, they didn't utilize him enough, and that's why. But maybe a guy like Jalen Carey or something like that. Where it just didn't necessarily work out immediately and wasn't quite able to pull through in the end. And Carey even was decent, I guess, at moments. But to see Bell come in and have this, I guess, opportunity today to prove himself one more time, right? You're in what I think a lot of people saw as a battle between him and Justin Taylor and Kadir Copeland for the bulk of 40 minutes just about. And Bell came out and said, I'm putting a claim to this. And for right now, this is my spot. And he did exactly what you needed to do. Hit a huge shot in overtime to put Syracuse up. I believe it was 72-70 or no, 70-68 at that point, maybe. Hit a huge shot to put them up. He did what he needed to do. And I think that's really cool to see him. So he's definitely a good in this game. Who's a guy that we haven't really talked about yet? Jesse Edwards. Jesse Edwards had an up and down game. Without a doubt, this was a very up and down game for him. Picks up 2 fouls very early on. And I thought once he came back in the second half, he was playing very lackluster and didn't quite seem to have that spark, that energy, that aggression, that physicality that you need from him. And that has been a really big success story for him so far this season. He didn't really have that. I watched him play defense. It seemed like he was very, very paranoid about picking up another foul, very nervous to pick up another foul. And I get it, right? You don't want to pick up another foul. You don't want to pick up the third and have to deal with that. But you also can't stop playing defense with that being a concern of yours and with that being a worry. And I think that held him back a lot. And then on the offensive side of the ball, he just didn't seem to have that same aggression. And I was really, really questioning, really down on him. He misses 2 free throws, and then all of a sudden, a couple minutes left in regulation, it clicked. And that aggression returned, and he got a couple of big rebounds and hit a couple of free throws and really started to figure it out. And we were like, there it is. That's what you needed out of Jesse. That's what we've been waiting for this whole time. And he ends up finishing with 10 points, 8 rebounds. Syracuse's leading rebounder on the day. But you really needed to have that aggression earlier. And I think Syracuse easily wins this game in regulation if he was playing a little bit more aggressive on the defensive side, and had that same aggression on offense. And I think that's something that we can look at and we can talk about moving forward, is seeing what this plan is with Jesse Edwards in foul trouble. So I would say Jesse Edwards, not quite a good, not quite an ugly. I'm going to go with him as a bad just because of the foul trouble and then the lack of aggression. He had a good final, let's say 8 minutes. We'll say a final 3 minutes of regulation and overtime. So we'll give him a good final 8. A bad, opening 17 at this point. But I'll talk about a guy that came in off the bench, and although he doesn't, and I said this on Twitter, and I hope you understood the point with it, he doesn't quite have the offensive splash or the offensive spark that Jesse can bring. But Monir Hima off the bench today, I thought held his own very well in the middle of the zone. A huge block in transition, another block. I think it was on a corner 3 closing out, if I remember correctly. I thought he did a pretty solid job. I would have liked to see him a little bit more effective on the boards. So I don't know what I want to give him in terms of he's slightly less than good. By no means would I say bad. But he had those flashes today that really showed some solid defensive moments from him on the defensive side of the ball. And I'd love to see a little bit more in terms of what he could try to do offensively. I think he left one, either it was a little baby hook short or something along those lines, or a little floater short. I'd like to see him do a little bit more offensively and a little bit more aggression crashing the boards, but his shot blocking looked really solid tonight, and something that you can definitely take away from this game as a positive. I want to talk a little bit about the rotation tonight. Syracuse, if I remember correctly, yep, it was 9 players they had rotate in. That was 9 players in the first half. And then I believe it was only 6 in the second half. You're starting 5 in terms of Girard, Judah, Bell, Jesse Edwards, and Benny Williams. And then Symir Torrance came in and gave Girard a quick rest and gave Mintz a quick rest in the second half, unless I missed something. Malik Brown played in the first half. I thought he was decent, nothing crazy. Monir, as I talked about, played the bulk of the first half at the 5. Justin Taylor played a good chunk in the first half. I thought he was, I'm still looking for him to have that moment. He came in, and I believe his first touch, he came off a curl or off the screen, curled around the screen, and got a pretty open mid-range jumper that he just missed, and then didn't really have a look after that. Didn't take another shot in this game. Got 1 rebound, 1 assist, but still looking to see what he can do and what he can do contribution-wise. And that was the rotation of. It was pretty interesting today to see, no Quadir Copeland, who I think we know can come in, and we saw what he can do. And I think the fact that he didn't play today is a nod to the game of basketball that Chris Bell played, and getting his 11 points and doing what you needed him to do, and hitting some big shots, especially early on when in the first half it was Girard was doing the scoring, and that was the case. And Girard was scoring, and Girard was scoring, and Girard was scoring. And no one else was really getting open. Judah had some moments, got some clean looks at the rim. But the rest of the offense, especially with Jesse out, Monir was in, you were looking for something. And that's where you saw the success from Bell and being able to hit a couple of those big shots. So the rotation was something of note. And I'm curious to see where this goes moving forward, because this is definitely – there's more depth than a 6 or 7 man rotation here. But the depth has not necessarily shown out in terms of warranting all that much more play. And I think Monir is going to get his minutes when Jesse's in foul trouble. Symir is going to get his minutes to rest the guards. If Joe's struggling, if Judah's struggling for whatever reason, Symir on the defensive side. Plus, he seems a little bit better offensively from what I've seen so far this season. That's going to be really valuable to the rotation. And Taylor is going to, I don't imagine that Taylor and Malik Brown are going to get cut out of the rotation, and I don't think Copeland's going to be cut out of the rotation completely. I think Copeland's situation might have been more situational tonight based on Bell, but you're going to need guys to start to step up and start to say, yes, I am warranting more minutes. I am warranting to be on the court and to be subbed in and to be at this level. I think that is something that we're definitely going to need to see moving forward for Syracuse basketball. All right. After this, we've got a lot of Twitter responses, and it's been a lot of fun to see how that's been going. We love hearing your feedback on Twitter. We're over 2,000 followers on Twitter now, which is awesome. So thank you to you guys. I think we have over 20 plus replies to our post game tweet today asking for your thoughts on this Syracuse Richmond game. Once again, Syracuse 74-71 was the final in this one. Joe Girard, a career high 31. But we will hear from you after a quick word from BetOnline. And let me tell you this, boy, was that final shot out of Richmond an important shot for some. Yeah, was that an important shot for some? Syracuse hits 2 free throws to cover. Kabang. The hearts broken of many bettors, I'm sure, and the celebrations from many other bettors as that final shot, albeit meaningless, had a lot of meaning to some. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, it's Twitter time. We are going to go out to Twitter. There's actually been more responses since we started recording, so maybe you will be getting a true raw reaction out of me right now, but we will see. So let's click. Let's see who we're reading first. And let's see. Let's start with Michael R3848 saying Chris Bell was the X factor tonight. Great performance from him after not playing much early on in the year. Yeah, 100%. I think I talked about that a little bit last block. It's cool to see a guy come in and bounce back when things haven't been going their way. And I think that says a lot about Chris Bell right now, because it is easier, as we all know, it is easier to just bend over and sit down and say, I'm done. And this is not for me right now, or whatever that whole ordeal is. That's the easy out. And Bell came in tonight and said, I'm going to fight and I'm going to battle and I'm going to see what I can do right now. And it's been awesome to see. And I wanted to, I was looking for some names and nothing really came to mind, I guess, as I was trying to find, the freshmen that come in and end up struggling and not really getting their minutes. Maybe like a Bryson Goodine maybe wasn't able to quite, figure it out off the get, and that reflected in a lack of minutes, things like that. I said Carey. Those are the ones that sort of come to mind when I'm looking at this, especially in recent years, to see sort of where those struggles might have come from. But yeah, I think it's a huge nod to him and seeing what he was able to do tonight and hit some big shots, including a huge overtime shot for Syracuse. John Wells next with that. That is Jelliot Wells on Twitter. Pleased with the win overall. Could be a confidence builder for us. Defense was much better down the stretch. Yeah, the defense was solid down the stretch, especially in the overtime. I mean, that last possession for Richmond, not the one where they hit the three, but the one where they could have ended up making this a closer game. My Atlanta, did they not just hit offensive rebound? But yes, the defense stepped things up in the overtime and down the stretch. And I 100% think that this is a game you're going to look back on as a spot where Syracuse can build from. Or if they do build this season and get a lot better, I think you're probably going to circle this game, because this was a game where they had to battle and they didn't play poorly. They fought, they grinded, and they end up with what I think, someone on Twitter said it, and I think it's a very accurate word. It was a gutsy win tonight and a gritty win and something that you 100% can build off of at this point. We have less optimistic by the day Cuse fan on Twitter. Love Judah. Glad to have Chris Bell. We had a new tweet, so I lost it midway through. Glad to have Chris Bell figuring it out. JG3 doing his thing. But I just want to listen to you talk about the last defensive possession in overtime where Richmond grabbed about 30 rebounds. Yeah, I was screaming at the TV, just get a rebound. I may or may not have had Syracuse -4, looking for them to get a rebound, get fouled, and hold on to the lead. But looking for just a rebound, right? You're getting a hand on it, and that was chaos. I mean, Jesse is running past shooters on the arc. That whole possession was chaos and pure chaos. And boy, I'm not sure that my heart could have handled another offensive rebound out of Richmond. I think that put everybody that is a Syracuse fan into the absolute ringer as to, oh my God, cardiac cues. Oh my God, get a rebound. Oh my God, can something happen? Someone grab the ball, grab the ball, grab the ball, grab the ball. And finally, they get a rebound. Gerard gets fouled. Or no, it goes out of bounds. They didn't even get a rebound. It was a team rebound. Ball goes out of bounds. And that is how this ends up going. Let's see, a couple more maybe before we call it an episode today. Who do we want to go to? Let's do Cole on Twitter, Cole Fluker. The defense was the best it's looked by far, but still some work to do, especially closing out around the perimeter. Chris stepping up was so huge for this game. Joe can't be the only one shooting threes this season, 100%. And I think it was game one, Boeheim said in the press conference that Bell is the second best three-point shooter on this team behind Joe Girard. And we hadn't seen it. We heard about it. We were told. We knew from high school that he could shoot, but we had not seen it. And today, it's a really big sign to see that there is another three-point look. Judah can kind of shoot the three. That's not by any means what he's looking to do. And I don't think that's what anyone really wants him to do. Girard obviously shooting the three. Benny will take the occasional one, but you look here, and I mean, you've got Chris Bell shot 5 threes tonight. Girard shot 11 threes tonight. Judah shot 1, and Benny shot 1. So you do need that second look beyond the arc just to keep teams honest. I think that's going to be a really big thing and something that will 100% be something that you're going to need as you move forward from here. Tanner Hayden, the starting five, is getting more comfortable with each other each game. Looks like an 8-man rotation with Sai, Hema, and Malik. I think it's going to be 8 or 9. But yeah, today it looked like an 8-man rotation. Malik Brown, I think just the way he comes in and seems like he has that little spark, deserves to always be rotating in at some capacity just for a little bit. Monir obviously is going to remain in the rotation because if Jesse gets into foul trouble, he is the next guy. He is the second number 5, and there's not really a 4 guard that will be able to successfully dip into the 5, I don't think. And then obviously Symir, I think he does a great job off the bench, giving rest to Girard, to Judah, or just changing things up a little bit. I think he's going to stay in there. And then I think between Justin Taylor and Quadir Copeland, you're going to find other minutes at the 3 for Chris Bell. I loved what I saw today. I don't know if that's going to be an everyday thing. So keeping, Justin Taylor and Quadir Copeland in some capacity rotating in there is 100% going to be something that we see. Tom Kaplan, Judah Mintz should have the ball in his hands for the final shot under a minute every single time. I think that right now, I do like that thought, especially in his ability to create. I look at, the way Syracuse came out of a timeout with how much time was left out of that timeout. It was under a minute. They could have gone 2 for 1, I believe. And they run out of a timeout. They inbound the ball, or they throw it into the high post to Benny, I think, and no one gets open. And then they get this crummy kind of look, and then Richmond has a chance to end up winning it down at the other end. Obviously, they don't. It goes into overtime. You could argue right here that Mintz should have shot that ball. I loved the pass, but the clock awareness needs to be there. The pass was the right move with a half second more on the clock. I will give him that. But I do like him having the ball late in the game in those big situations because of his ability to create for himself. And then as he progresses, be able to create for others because he can create for himself so effectively. I think that's going to do it for today. Syracuse with what I'm going to continue calling a gutsy win, a really big moment for them. They get to 3-1 on the year. They will play again tonight when you are listening against either St. John's or Memphis. I know we are going to hear from Bones and myself. We have an old friend from high school who is very, very much a big-time St. John's fan. So if that game comes to fruition, there will be some conversation being had. So I do not know who wins at this point, but thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today pod, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Owen Valentine. So long. We will talk to you tomorrow morning.